Aren't we all curious to know about that simplest, straightforward path that we can follow through and generate leads? And what if that blueprint is suggested by Google? It's even better, right? Welcome back to the stream. This is going to be a very exciting discussion. And considering we are at the beginning of the year, there is no better time than this to talk about the lead generation tactics or the lead generation, to talk about lead generation. New year, new targets, new activities, new leads, everything is going to be new. So what we would be talking about is the ultimate lead generation framework that nobody else but Google is suggesting us to follow. And I think they have a lot of insights for us to go ahead and look into these things. So let's get started. One of the reasons we use Google Ads because it is intent-based. Google definitely has proven to be worthwhile when it comes to generating leads in the past when we speak about advertising on Google networks, whether it is search, display, or YouTube. Comparatively, compared to other social media platforms or running ads on Facebook, Instagram, and other platforms, Google has a proven record to be able to perform to some base minimum level of generating leads. How do you maximize the growth when it comes to generating leads? And what are certain aspects that we as practitioners can take care of and we as businesses can take care of? And this framework is suggested by Google itself. So I think it is worth the time to go ahead and look at what they have to talk about in terms of lead generation. And what Google calls as maximum growth, which results through generating high quality leads, right? They suggest you to follow these 4-step blueprint to get as many quality leads as possible. Now, initially I thought this may be a very half-hearted, this may not be completely accurate, and maybe this is some sort of a best practice guide. But when I actually started giving it a read, it proved to be much more than just a blueprint. If you go deep into this, there are some aspects which are really helpful if we can execute in our daily campaigns and in our daily marketing with Google Ads. So let's get started. Let's look at what they have. The first step is to obviously set objectives. And when you talk about objectives, you have these sub-stages, which we would be talking about in detail. And once you have set the objectives, then you need to get ready. And then you have to take action, which means in terms of getting your campaigns ready, then you have evaluate and expand. On the outset, this may seem like a very generic thing that Google is trying to communicate, but let's get a little deep and see what these things actually mean. So when you have objectives, so when we talk about setting objectives, there are five sub-steps in this which talk about individual elements when it comes to generating a complete understanding of, to get a complete understanding of what our objectives are. Very often what happens is when we have a business or when you have a client or when you have some marketing or when you have a product or service that you would want to promote, we jump straight into this and we jump into a Google account and then we start creating campaigns with no forethought at all. Contrary to that approach, what the Google blueprint suggests is in order to attain an understanding of what campaigns to perform and what campaign objectives to choose, perform a few steps before that. First step is understand if this is your sale, understand your lead to sale journey. Not all conversions have the same, not all touch points have the same conversions, right? Obviously, a lead will not directly go to a sale in one step, but if they would have to go through a series of steps. Now, let's say if you have 4 steps, let's say 1, 2, 3, and 4, you need to map your lead to sale journey to get as much understanding about these touch points and what touch points have a greater value of conversion and then capitalize on that. So it is very important for you to map your lead to sale journey. Now, once you have an understanding of that, that is when you will start looking at what your business objectives are. What does a business want to achieve? Once you have set your KPIs in terms of, let's say the business wants to achieve a 30% overall growth in terms of registrations for their new webinar or the new product launch that they're coming up with, then you will go ahead and start looking at what marketing objectives correspond to achieve this goal, right? In a way, they all lead to get some input from the activity above. Let's say to understand what campaigns to run, you need to look at what media objectives that you want to achieve. To understand media objectives, then you need to look at what the marketing objectives are. To do that, you need an understanding of what the business objectives are. Now, to understand what the business objectives, you need to understand what this lead to sale journey looks like, right? Now, once you have the KPIs from a business front resolved, then you need to look at what your marketing objectives are. Let's say you need at least, let's say, 20% more impressions for you to achieve your goal, whatever your business numbers could be, right? Or maybe you need like at least 80% more impressions to show on, let's say, X, Y, and Z sites. So these parameters, once you have these, that is when you will start looking at what media that you would want to be using, what creatives that you would want to be using. Then you need to have an understanding. Then you will go ahead and get an understanding of what campaigns do I want to run and what my campaign objectives would be. So basically, the first step involves 5 steps in itself, where you need to understand what the lead to sale journey looks like. The second step is going to be what your company's objectives are. Then you will look at what your marketing objectives are. Then you will look at what the media objectives are. Then you will go ahead and figure out what the campaign objectives are. Then you need to be ready to get those campaigns cranked.